Good morning, everybody. Well, it's the 1st of April today, and you do get a feeling of panic. Have I got everything in the ground that I need? Have I sown everything I need to sow? You start watching YouTube and you see other gardeners, very accomplished people, huge amounts of knowledge, and they've got things that are ahead of you. They're planting something that hasn't got out of the seed packet here. So you start to doubt yourself, and I think all that's just normal. If we weren't enthusiastic about gardening, then what would be the point? So I've been thinking about April and what I need to do in the way of sowing, and I know I've not given you an update for some time on the peppers and onions, so I thought I'd do that. And I'm trying not to panic. In this climate, where I am 1,000 feet above sea level, it still frosts and cold and rain, and whilst I can see shoots and various plants doing well, I need to just keep a lid on it and make sure that I go steady and don't lose a lot of plants to a really cold night. The other battle that I have is that the summer sown crops, that I call them, things like cucumbers and pumpkins, squash, they need a fair growing time, but you can get to the point where you run out of space to put your seeds in a propagator, because a lot of those need a warm start. And also, if you get that plant too mature too soon, and it's still cold when you come to need to put it out because it's getting big, then you can lose those plants to a cold night or a frost. So I'm not a weather forecaster, and it is difficult. I'm very fortunate that I've got the polytunnel which bridges the gap. But I'm going to show you today where we are with the peppers and the onions and what I'm thinking about doing with them next, and what's in the propagator at the moment, and what I'm going to be putting in the propagator and the ground as I go through April. It's a really key month. I think the main thing to remember is that whatever you do, you can pretty much get through. It might be that you've not optimized everything, but you can pretty much get through depending on the weather. So what's in the propagator? Well, it's misty because it's damp, and the temperature is up to 24 degrees, and I did that because I needed to start with the tomatoes. And having grown the peppers in the propagator and kept them in there for such a long time, the temperature was down to about 20 degrees, and I didn't really have the option to whack it back up to 24. So the peppers had to come out, and I'll show you those shortly. So what's in? Well, we've got tomatoes, and we've got another sowing of swede. Pretty unusual to put swede in the propagator, but I was having a bit of a tough time getting my swede to germinate in the polytunnel. So I thought I'll grow some in here, get them germinated, and get them into polytunnel quickly. So this is tomato crimson crush, just 10 seeds in the packet, and currently there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them that have germinated out of 10. And today is Wednesday, and I sowed those in the propagator at 24 degrees on Sunday. And by comparison, I've had Moneymaker in the polytunnel for a good few weeks and very little activity in the polytunnel in terms of germinating tomatoes at the moment. So I did panic a bit, and I thought, let's get some tomatoes up, and we'll grow those on in this propagator. We'll pot them on when they're big enough, and we'll keep them in the propagator, and that'll guarantee me at least half a dozen plants. I'm sure the others will come through, and I'll be sowing a few more tomatoes, and we'll be fine. So you'll remember that I had lavender along with the peppers in this propagator, and they've come out now because equally I don't want them to experience that hike in temperature. So they've gone under the grow lights, and they're looking really well, nicely shooting, multiple shoots coming out of the stems at the base, and they'll enjoy a little bit cooler now. And the next step for them when I'm ready will be to take them into the polytunnel when I can be sure we don't have too much freezing cold nights. And on to the onions. Well, this is just one of the varieties that I've kept in this location. Space becomes the challenge. So this is the yellow Rheinsberger long keeping onion, and there's a solitary Elsa Craig here, and I've cleaned them up, taken out all the dead leaves, which is what happens, and they're doing really well. They're of course all leaning over, and that's not a problem to me. I've got a couple of options. I can plant them straight into the ground and just hang in there, or I can do a transition into the polytunnel just to acclimatise them a little and then on into the ground. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to carry on growing them here, and they'll be just fine. So here we are. Here are the other peppers that I've been growing, and they've come out of the propagator, and this is a very warm room and a reasonably light windowsill. So we've got the King of the North sweet bell pepper, which is probably my longest standing growing pepper. I grow this virtually every year. It's a very successful pepper for this region because it copes with the cold temperatures, and also it is quite early, which is great for the short season. The Dado de Mocha sweet Argy pepper is looking really well. All of these have been pinched out and pruned heavily over the last few weeks, and you can see how the growth in here from the leaf nodes is absolutely fantastic. They really are bushing up brilliantly. And we've even got a pepper on this one, which is fantastic, and I'll just let that grow on now because the peppers will be going out in a not too distant future to the polytunnel, hopefully. And this is the Karkolka paprika sweet pepper, and again really healthy plants. Just look at the growth in there, and an absolute bundle of flowers. So I'm keeping these well watered because this is a warm room, and I'm going to continue watching them carefully. The light in here is nothing like what they were getting in the propagator, so they will suffer a little from that. I would anticipate some yellow leaves. These are the cotyledons, so they will fall off, but the other leaves may well come under some pressure of not having sufficient light, but we will keep a careful eye on them. I turn them every day so that we get light to all areas of the plants, and I feed them periodically with the seaweed feed. This is the balance of the onions. Here we've got Elsa Craig, who is doing quite well. Again, laying down, but really not a problem. Once they get out in the soil and get into the light, they will stand up, or at least the new shoots will grow upwards. And this mass of spaghetti is the Zeebrunn shallots. and they are just so prolific and done really well in these root trainer plots. So onions all looking good, and they'll spend some time out of the propagator before I move them into the polytunnel, which is the next stage. So what's next on the sowing agenda? Well, I've got a string of seeds here. I'll tell you what my thought process is during April and tell you what I'll be sowing. So we've got this whole batch here, and this is next to be sown in the polytunnel. So quite happy sowing these in the cold, and some of them are succession sowings and some are first sowings. So broad beans, I'm going to sow another group of broad beans. This time I'm going to sow my own saved seed, which was aquadulce. So I'm hopeful that they will come on nicely. In one of my earlier videos when I looked at calabrese or broccoli, we sowed the 60-day and the 120-day variety, and I'm going to do a succession sowing of those because I want that interim step, and hopefully that will spread the cropping. I will sow some more mixed lettuce, and we'll just probably let the existing ones grow a little bit further on before I do that, but that won't be too long. I've got successful turnips germinated and growing. They were the white ones, and next I'm going to sow some of the purple turnip again in the polytunnel. Now my seeds I've been sowing best of all. I had a poor germination on the first tray. I've grown some in the propagator, as I've shown you earlier, and this was the ones that I grew last year, and I'm of the opinion that I'm going to grow a tray of these as well, probably 15-20 individual plants, and this was a seed that is now a year old, and I'm struggling for the variety, but we'll open it up. Here we go. And the Swede is Gowrie. I don't know, I forgot that one. But that is a very successful Swede in our ground and our climate, so I definitely want to grow that again. I want to do succession of beetroot, but instead of carrying on with another tray of Boltardi, as I've got two, I'm going to try a couple of different varieties. These came off of magazine covers. This one's Beetroot Solo F1, so we'll give that a go. And this is a rather interesting beetroot with that sort of spiral and purple and white center, which will be interesting. So that's Barbabetola de Chioggia. My pronunciations are rubbish, but you can see it, and hopefully we'll get some success with those. I'll grow another batch of spring onions and do those in clusters again, and hopefully they'll come on nicely, and then I can intersperse those with other crops for a quick grab crop. Like to grow a few chives. We've got a pot of chives, we use it quite regularly, so I'm going to just try and support that with some additional ones. Parsnips, my first parsnips will go in this month, tender and true, and I'll show you how I do that later on, and I'll sow another one of those sowings a bit later on. Salad, leaf, rocket, that lovely peppery taste of salads. I'll be growing that. It grows ever so easily. In fact, it grows almost wild in the polytunnel where seeds and self-seeding takes place, and I'll just grow a cluster of those. I'll do another sowing of autumn giant cauliflower. No great quantities in any of these, but just making sure I've got a few more coming on, and then I'll start to sow some coriander, which is a herb that we love in the summer. So they're the polytunnel early April sowings that I'm going to make, and here we've got what I'm going to put in this propagator that I've made the space for. I'm going to do some celeriac prins from seed into trays in the propagator. We're successful with them. I had some anxieties around them not germinating, but they've come through. I'm just going to grow another tray of those, make sure I've got good healthy plants in sufficient quantity. I'm going to grow my first courgette sowing. This is an early traditional courgette from Italy, and this is a risk because I do run into that situation where I can end up with either a bigger plant that's not ready weather-wise to go out because it's too cold. So we'll see, but we'll sow a couple of those. Exactly the same for the early fortune cucumber. This variety, by the way, in the courgette is Striato de Napoli. So the cucumber, of course, that will stay in the polytunnel all season. So I'm going to get a couple of those underway. Moneymaker, I've just got the first seed germinating in the polytunnel. I was getting panicky over tomatoes, so I'm just going to grow a few and make sure I've got the plants I need. So that'll be the propagator sowings. And then later on in April, I will sow my first carrots into a bed, and that will be Manchester table carrot. They produced some fantastic carrots last year, but the slugs ate most of the seedlings before they got going. So this year for me is all about protecting those seedlings so that we get a crop. And then into the propagator later in the season, and therefore I need to keep space available, goes the squash and pumpkins. So what we've got here is my favourite pumpkin, which is small sugar, and this pumpkin is an eating pumpkin. And if you're not aware of the difference, the sort of pumpkins you see in your local supermarket are jack-o'-lantern and therefore carving and having fun with. These are far more edible, sweeter flesh, and a much better eating pumpkin. So we'll be growing a couple of those from my original seed purchase, and we'll grow a couple that are saved seed to see whether I can perpetuate growing this sugar pumpkin from my own seed. And then winter luxury pumpkin, very, very similar to the small sugar, and we'll grow just a couple of those. And then my second sowing of courgettes, which will be about the right time, is this courgette long Fiorentino, and we'll have a couple of those going. And last year I grew a couple of miniature pumpkins called Munchkin, which I learned about on the podcast Lavender and Leeks, which I enjoy, and I grew them successfully, and they were all eaten to ground level by slugs. So if I'm going to succeed with those this year, I really need to get slug protection sorted out. And then later on, we are going to be growing another tranche of parsnips, tender and true, so that will be a succession sowing, and that will be the time we put in the runner beans or green beans, depending on what you like to call them. And this bean is a saved seed, and it's Tsar. It's a fantastic runner bean, and you can eat these pretty much like a pulse, but they also make fabulous runner beans, and the flowers are white, and I'm going to grow those as I do every year. And I got a packet of these on the front of a magazine. These are crimson flowered, so I thought we'd try those as well. And then that will be the time to put in these real warmth lovers, this basil Genovese, and we'll get a pot or two of those going. And then I'll sow some lettuce Arctic King with the idea that these will last a little bit longer, see how they go, and I'll do some succession that might take us through to autumn. And then out in the fruit garden underneath the apples, we'll be sowing a few more cosmos and some calendula, and that will be my sowings for the year. Well, I hope you enjoyed that summary of where we've been with the peppers and the onions, and what sowing I'm going to be doing in April and onwards. And there may well be succession sowings as we go through the summer, and of course then we start thinking about autumn, and that's a long way away. But right now everything is underway and progressing well, and I'll keep you abreast of where we are with all those seeds and seedlings as we go forward in coming videos. With the peppers growing on in this sunshine, I'll show you now a few of the jobs that I've been doing on the plot, carrying on with my plans, and I hope you enjoy what I've been up to. Couldn't resist having a bit of a go at this hard pan of soil that was under the membrane. I think it's going to take a few attempts to break into this, so I thought I'd start by just breaking it up for the first time to see what I'm going to be dealing with. So as you can see, it's incredibly dry, just like crumbly soil, but very dry indeed. So I think it's going to pay to break this up and give it a good water. What's really encouraging is that because it's been under that membrane, well, 3 or 4 years, I would think, there's no weeds in it whatsoever. There is the odd bit of glass, so I'll go carefully and break this up and then give it a good watering. So the next step in here will be to break up that soil that's clumpy. Should be able to do that fairly easily once that water's soaked in, and then it's a case of adding a lot more soil to this bed, and that will come from the soil that I've created from doing the chicken run, and inside the main chicken run where the Bramley apples are, for years and years I've added soil and clumps of grass for the chickens to root around, and that soil level is built up, and I'm going to be able to take some of the surface off and bring into here, and obviously that will be enriched with all the chicken manure, which should be a good feed for the bed. The soil that I've turned over here has now had the water soaking into it for 24 hours. So I'm just going to try and break down these clumps now and get a reasonable tilth which I can then build on top of. But I'm happy that this soil is going to be good enough as a base for everything that I can add on top of it, and the drainage should be reasonably good. So I'm just going to carry on working at breaking that down for a short while. So I'm in the chicken run, or the orchard as I like to know it, with these apple trees, and this ground has been de-weeded by the chickens for years, and I add various bits and bobs into here, usually sods of turf or weeded pieces of soil, and the chickens love to root through it and eat everything they want, and that leaves just a bed of soil which has had chicken manure on it for years and years and should be really good quality. So I'm going to break this up because it's built up and up, and put it into the barrow and take it to the polytunnel ready for the new bed. I will screen this soil in a garden sieve, but just make sure that I don't add any of that mare's tail or couch grass to this bed, and also takes out a few of the larger stones. So whilst I said I wouldn't do this to a rainy day, I'm going to get the soil in, because if that gets damp it's going to make that job really tough. But I'll be screening it another day when I get an opportunity and it's just too wet to work on the ground. I do hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and if you want updates from me each time I upload a video, click the bell and select all. I do hope you have a great day. Diolch yn fawr.